Hello, you're listening to a sermon from Community Church in Prague, Oklahoma. At Community Church, we are all about loving God as a community and loving people in our community. If you live in the area, we would love for you to join us on a Sunday morning for coffee and fellowship at 9:30 or for service at 10 a.m. And now, here is our pastor, Wopsle, with part 4 of our series, Advent.
But let's dig in for today. We are in week 4 of Advent, kind of our last week before we finish it all up tonight. I want to catch you up in case you haven't been here yet on what we've talked about all 4 weeks of Advent. Week 1, we talked about hope, and we talked about how Zechariah and Elizabeth had all the reasons to have lost hope. They were too old to have a baby. They'd been praying, and God hadn't shown up, and yet God showed up and fulfilled his promise, and they had hope, and we can have hope. Week 2, we talked about peace, right? About Mary being told that she's going to be pregnant and she's young and she's unwed. And there's lots of reasons why God's plan was probably not her favorite way to go about doing things. But yet she had peace in it. She was willing to trust God, even if the circumstances looked kind of crazy. Just last week, week 3, we talked about joy in Mary's song, right? Whenever her heart was so caught up with what God was doing in her life that she sings out this song and she says, "My soul magnifies the Lord." She's overcome with joy at what God is doing in her and through her, even though, again, she's in the middle of being an unwed teenage mother. So now today, week 4, we're going to talk about love. And we are finally talking about the birth of a baby, but it's not Jesus yet. That's tonight. Today we're talking about the birth of John the Baptist. So what we've been doing, if you haven't been with us, we just took Luke 1. Everybody in Luke 1 is anticipating the birth of Jesus. So we just went through 25% of Luke 1 every single week. So this morning we're on the last 25% of Luke 1. And that's going to start in verse 57. So let's just hop in right there together. Luke 1:57. And see what we can learn about love today, this last week of Advent. It says, when it was time for Elizabeth to have her baby, so again, she's about to give birth to John the Baptist, who would grow up to be John the Baptist, who was Jesus' cousin. It was time for Elizabeth to have her baby. She gave birth to a son. Her neighbors and relatives heard that the Lord had shown her great mercy, and they shared her joy. This is going to be the simplest and most straightforward thing that we're going to learn today from the scripture, but it's this. We can learn right here. Giving God glory and going public with what God is doing in your life, you know what it does? It gives other people the opportunity to share in your joy. So that's what we should do. We should let the world know what God's doing, because just like these neighbors were able to share with the joy of this baby, John the Baptist, people can share in your joy as well. Listen, when things are going tough, like you need a few people in your corner, right? You need to get the people that you know that you trust. You need to pray. You need to have your holy huddle together around you. But then when things are going great, you've got to let the world know. And I know for me sometimes, and it's got to be true for some of you, sometimes we get that backwards, don't we? Sometimes we go into this and we say, when things are going terrible, we're going to let everybody know how bad we are, or how bad this thing that happened to us, or how downtrodden we are. And I think you got to let some people know. But I don't know if that's the thing we need to be shouting from the mountaintops, if then when God shows up, we're just like, this feels about right? You're like, this is what God owes me right here. This is good. But the bad stuff everybody needs to know. I think we kind of get that backwards. I think the bad stuff, the tough stuff, we kind of need to bear down and like Zechariah and Elizabeth, we don't have any reason to think that they were complaining to anybody about not having this son except to God. And they were telling God, like, hey, we're still praying, we're still hoping. We know it seems like all hope is lost, but they were quiet about that. And then the pregnancy and everything, they were giving God all the glory. And when we do that, God gets glory and our neighbors get joy. So share what God is doing in your life. That's the easy part. The next part's harder, and I'm more excited about it. Let's go on in verse 59. It says, on the 8th day, they came to circumcise the child, and they were going to name him after his father, Zechariah. This is their firstborn son, right? And it was just normal to name them after the father, because they were kind of the heir and all that stuff. You're probably familiar with that. But, verse 60, his mother spoke up and said, no, he is to be called John. Well, of course, they said to her, there's no one among your relatives who has that name. Basically, they're like, what? Why would you just pick this random name out of a hat? That doesn't make any sense. Verse 62 says, then they made signs to the father to find out what he would like to name the child. It's kind of funny because you remember this part of the story. Zechariah couldn't speak, but I'm led to believe he could still hear. So I'm not sure why they were making signs to him rather than just asking him, seems kind of offensive to me. But anyway, he says, somehow they communicated to him, what do you want to name the child? Verse 63 says, he asked for a writing tablet, and to everyone's astonishment, he wrote, his name is John. Immediately his mouth was opened and his tongue set free, and he began to speak, praising God. So finally now, after 9 months of pregnancy, he's able to speak. And of course, the first thing he does is he praises God for what God is doing in his life. But the part of this I really want to focus on that I think is interesting is the choosing of his name. So right or wrong, I don't know how you may feel about this, but the truth is in biblical times, the mother had no say in the name of the child. So the fact that Elizabeth said, we should name him John, it didn't matter. That legally the father got to choose, and the father had to choose. So even whenever she said that, I have to think that everyone there was like, okay, good that you want to name him John, but who cares what you want? Sadly, right? But they said, but legally, this person has the naming rights. Zechariah is the only one in the whole world that has the right to give this child a name. So whatever you want, Elizabeth, doesn't matter. Zechariah, what do you want? And Zechariah said his name is John. Then at that point, his name is John. Because the father has the naming rights over the child. To kind of illustrate this point better, I want to go back to an Old Testament story that we could spend a whole month on that I'll try to make really, really quick. But I think that putting these two births of these children together help complete the picture for us. So book of Genesis, there's a man named Jacob that goes through most of the book that we kind of follow through there. We don't need that for a little while, Hunter, if you want to put that away. And Jacob, he was born, he grew up, all kinds of stuff. Too many details of this guy's story to tell. But we'll pick up whenever he saw a girl and he fell in love. Instant love. Her name was Rachel. And her father said, if you work for me for 7 years, then you can marry my daughter. And Jacob's like, okay, I'm in. So he worked for 7 years. At the end of that 7 years, oops, switcheroo. He said, oh, did I say 7? I meant 7 more. And he makes him work 7 more years. And Jacob does it because he's so in love with Rachel. So at the end of he didn't get to marry her and then work 14 years. He had to work for the 14 years and keep his eye on the prize. And then he finally gets to marry the love of his life, Rachel, after this 14 years of working. And then they get married and everything is great. And they have a kid, and that's awesome. And then she gets pregnant and they're having their second kid. It's the love of his life, having a second baby boy. Everything is going so great for him and for them. Even though it was a long road, he loved her so much that it was totally worth it, right? Some of you men can attest to that. You know what that feels like. And look at what we see in Genesis 35:18. As she here is Rachel, as she breathed her last, for she was dying, she named her son Ben-Oni, but his father named him Benjamin. Now, Jacob had some tough times in his life, and Jacob knew something about names. You may remember Jacob and Esau. You've probably heard those two names together. They were twins, and they were born at the same time. Esau came out first, but Jacob came out like grasping the heel of Esau and kind of like fighting and wrangling, like in the womb. He came out a fighter, but not in like a good scrappy way, more like his name literally meant heel grabber or even deceiver. So he kind of grew up with this label on him that he's just kind of a swindler. He's the guy that Esau had the birthright because he was firstborn, right? But Jacob stole the birthright from him with a pot of stew and a little bit of hair on his arms. Remember that story? So he kind of grew up being this just sketchy guy, living up to the name that was given to him at birth. And he was always stuck with that name. And so I think he knew a little something about how the name of a child, or more importantly, the name of a moment, the marking of a moment can mean something for a very, very, very long time. And so now this guy who's been marked with this kind of bad name has the responsibility of naming his son. And Rachel suggests the son Ben-Oni. So Ben, B-E-N, that means son of. And then so there'd be a Ben and then a something else, right? So Ben means son of, and Oni actually means my sorrow or sadness. So with Rachel's dying breath, she gets to see this baby boy, and she knows she's done. She knows she's not going to get to grow up to see him, and the flood of emotions runs over her, and she picks the most obvious name, right? Son of my sorrow, son of sadness. That's what this moment is about right now. And so that's how I'm going to choose to mark this moment, looking at this baby. But Rachel doesn't have the right to name the baby, remember? It actually doesn't matter at all what Rachel wants. So they look to Jacob. Say, Jacob, what do you name the baby? Because you're the one that has the right to choose the name. And he says, I want to name him Benjamin. Ben still means son of. And Jamin means blessing. And so Jacob gets to choose the name of this baby boy who was born in the midst of tragedy, but he himself is not tragedy. He is not sorrow. He's a blessing. God has so much in store for him. And so Jacob just lost the love of his life, and he has to make the decision, am I going to mark this child by the circumstances that are around the birth, which are terrible? The love of my life, like 10 times over, I've just lost her, and now in this moment, I have to choose how to mark this moment. And rather than focus on the circumstances that are so dark right now, I think Jacob was able to scale back, to look at the big picture, to look at the future for this baby and say, I'm not going to let this baby grow up being marked by this moment. Instead, the future for this baby is going to be about the blessing that God has in his life for the world. He didn't let the circumstances cloud the bigger picture. Now, just for a second, back to Zechariah. He now has this son. His wife is in good health. Everything is really going well for him. The thing they've been praying for years and years and years and years and thought might not even happen has finally happened. And now he has naming rights over this new boy. And I think, again, it's more than just the name of their kids. It's about marking this moment and what God's doing in this moment. I think if I were Zechariah, and this is just truth time, I think if I were Zechariah, I would be tempted to not give my son the name that God had told me to give, because Zechariah's been looking forward to this son for maybe 60, maybe 80 years. He finally has his son. And what are you supposed to do with your firstborn son, with the heir to all of your stuff? You're supposed to name him your name. And I think that Zechariah must have been at least a little tempted to name his son Zechariah, because that's what he wanted to do. He finally got what he wanted, so now he's going to take matters into his own hands. And maybe this isn't you. Maybe this is only a problem that I struggle with. But I think sometimes we look to God when we need help. We cry out to him. We pray for him. We invite other people in. And then God shows up and does just what we need him to do. Step 2. And then step 3, we pat ourselves on the back and say, yeah, I did it. Look, everybody, look at what I did. I think we can do that with so many different scenarios. Our finances, right? We pray for financial help because we don't know how it's going to happen. And God shows up and does something great and miracle through us, through a job or a gift or whatever. And then we say, yeah, I did it. Look, I'm totally good. Everybody look at me. God, we pray for something. We pray for health when we're sick or we're in the hospital or something. And then God heals us and helps us. And then we're just like, well, yeah, of course I'm healthy. That's normal, right? That's what I should be doing. Sometimes we pray for things. We ask for things, and then we get them, and then we forget about the giver of the good thing. When it comes time to name it, when it comes time to mark the moment of what God gave us, sometimes we say, yeah, that was mine. This is mine. I did this. When back at step 1, we'd have remembered that we were helpless and in need of something anyway. So Zechariah is the only one who can mark this moment with a name, and he chooses to give the child the name that God gave him when he fulfilled this promise. Even though he has everything that he wanted, he's still making the conscious decision to mark this moment as holy, to mark this moment for God. And Jacob chose not to let the circumstances around the birth mark the birth and the son forever. But he chose to take a step back and say, no, this moment is bigger than this moment. And the obligation that you have is you have the naming rights over the things in your life. Other people don't get to mark the moments that you're experiencing right now. Nobody else gets to decide how you mark 2023. You get to decide that. You have the naming rights. And other people may tell you about this or that, or this is how you should feel. Guess what? You're the one. You're the only one that gets to decide how you feel about this year and how this moment is marked. And you can be like Jacob and you can look at the tragedy and say, but God is doing something. God is growing something. I know that there's better forward than backwards. Even though it's hard to see, I barely believe it, but I know it to be true. Or maybe you can be like Zechariah and you can be like, I'm on cloud nine right now. 2023 has been the greatest year ever. Everything's going so great. And I'm going to choose to honor God because of that greatness and not pretend like I did it myself. I think naming rights are really important, and we have them. So let's choose to honor God with them. See, I'm going some more in this Luke 1 story. I really like how this finishes up for us. Verse 65, it says, all the neighbors were filled with awe, and throughout the hill country of Judea, people were talking about all these things. Everyone who heard this wondered about it, asking, what then is this child going to be? For the Lord's hand was with him. Isn't that cool? Whenever Zechariah chooses to give him the name to mark this moment with something that honors God, that tells the story, right? Everyone that heard, why did they name the kid John? Guess what? It's an invitation to tell the whole story. Oh, well, because an angel showed up and told them and shut Zechariah's mouth, and they're old as the hills, but they're still having a kid, and all of this miracle stuff, right? The name that he was given caused people to ask the question, but why? And then they hear about all that God's doing, and then everyone's response, what is God going to do next? Wow. If God did all of that to get this John the Baptist here on earth, what is God going to do next? Praise God for being a God that is working and at work in the lives of his children. That was everyone's response. People took note. They kept an eye on him. They watched what God did through him. And then last week we had Mary's song. Remember, her heart was so overcome that she sang out this thing. And today we have Zechariah's song. And it's not quite as well known as Mary's and maybe not quite as poetic, but this is what, picking up in verse 67, this is Zechariah's song. It's his response. Again, we saw he picked the name John. He chose to honor God in this moment, and now he begins to sing. And this is the words that he sings. It says, as his father, Zechariah, was filled with the Holy Spirit, which again, at this time was pretty rare and pretty cool. That means something really special was going on. And it says, and he prophesied. This guy wasn't historically a prophet necessarily. He was a priest, but not a prophet. But now here he is. He's filled with the Holy Spirit. He's speaking about what's to come. In verse 68, he says, praise be to the Lord, the God of Israel, because he has come to his people and redeemed them. He keeps on going on with more and more and more stuff that you can go back and read. I encourage you to. But I want to stop right there with the first thing he says. He says God has come to his people and he's redeemed them. Because it's kind of church speak, right? You won't be surprised at a church to hear that God redeemed his people, but sometimes we can just kind of just blow over that and we don't really know what it means. We don't really think about it. This won't surprise you, but I did get the definition of redeem based on the dictionary. And this is what redeem means. Especially when we think about this in light of what God has done for us. I think this is pretty cool, right? Redeem means to get or win back. It's pretty cool, right? Or number 2, to free from what distresses or harms. Yeah, we need that. I want that. Or really on the nose is number 3, to free from captivity by payment of ransom. Right? That's what God has done for us. We have been redeemed, free from captivity by payment of ransom. And I think those are good and make a lot of sense, but even that to me feels a little bit lofty and feels kind of churchy. I think the best way that we need to think about redemption and redeeming is this right here. This is a gift certificate to Cowpokes. Someone in this room gave it to me. I actually have yet to thank you, so thank you for you that gave this to me. But to me and my family so that we could go to Cowpokes and get some chunk chicken and dip it in that honey, right? That's what I'm going to do. I'll probably even add some pie on because it's a gift certificate, so I got a little extra money, right? So I don't know if you can see, but this is like cut kind of squirrely up here just with some scissors. It's just paper printed out. It's not even color. It's just black and white. And so this piece of paper is totally worth $50 at Cowpokes, right? But it's also not worth anything. It's just paper. And if I take this to Dollar General, they're not going to let me walk out of there with anything. So isn't it kind of interesting that this paper is both completely worthless and also worth $50? But here's the thing, it's only worth that $50 whenever I take it and redeem it at the place that knows the value. Does that make sense? Until the day that this is redeemed, it's worthless. And if Cowpoke shuts down tomorrow, this is worthless. This has no value until it's redeemed at the place that knows the value by the people that know the value. And I think that's a better picture of what God redeeming us means. It means both, aside from him in the world, we may or may not have value. To people, our value is often conditional for those people, right? As long as we can serve them, we're valuable, and then we're not. But yet there is a place. And there is a person that understands our value. And when we place ourselves in God's grace and look up to him, he redeems us and realizes that value that we always had, but that wasn't necessarily realized in other areas. That's what redeeming is. Taking something that does have value, but isn't realized elsewhere, and putting it in the position, noticing the value of it, and redeeming it for the value that it was always worth to begin with. That's what redeeming is, and that's what God does for us. We are a people that is in need of redeeming. You may find yourself today in an arena and you say, most of my life, I don't feel valuable. I don't feel valued. I don't know that I'm contributing. I don't know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. It's because you are in need of redeeming, of the person that does know your value, that wants to bring it out in you. We all have value, and we also need to be redeemed. In fact, it's because of the value that you have that God does the redeeming in the first place, because he looks at his lost children and he says, they don't know. I have to get them into the place around the people that know their value, put my Holy Spirit in them, which is more valuable than they ever could have been to begin with, to not give them more value than they already have, but to realize the value, to redeem the value that they already have. And that driving force behind this whole deal of God's desire to redeem us, the driving force is his love for us. Right? God gives us these gifts we've talked about all month of hope and peace and joy. He gives these gifts because he loves us. And God redeemed us before we were worthy, before we earned it, before we were worth very much. God redeemed us because he loves us. God sent his son, we've been talking about, allowed him to be born in the most humble and unremarkable ways because of his love for us. And then God allowed that son to grow up, to lead this incredible revolution of love, and ultimately be convicted and executed for crimes that he was not guilty of. And God did all that because of his love for us. It was all motivated by love. When we think about the baby Jesus, right, it's this miracle baby. Certainly that baby signifies God's love for us, but it's what that Jesus means to us and what God shows about our value by allowing what Jesus did. It's the story of redemption that is Jesus' whole story, that is a better and more complete picture of love, not just the birth, but the birth and the life and the death. You see, God loves us, and God gives to us freely because of that love. God works things together for us because of that love. Now, to wrap all this up with a nice little Christmas Eve bow, it's in the middle of all this generosity that he gives us the naming rights to this moment. We get to decide what marks today, what marks this season, what marks this Christmas. Will we let the circumstances make us bitter about this time? Like Rachel did? And like Jacob could have, but chose not to? Will we let self-righteousness creep in so that we take credit for the good things in our lives and act like we did this all by the sweat of our brow? Or will we humbly bow down to our King? Will we mark this moment as holy? And will we submit our lives completely to our loving Creator? It's the choice we have today and every day, for that matter. I hope we can choose the way that honors God, gives him glory, and invites other people to share in our joy. Let me pray for us as we close this morning. God, many of us come to you today exhausted by a long season. God, it's now that as we look back and as we reflect, or as we're in the middle of this thing, God, that we get to kind of look at it and choose, how are we going to respond? What are we going to let our hearts say right now? And what is the story that we're going to tell, God? Is it going to be about the tough, or is it going to be about you and your generosity? Are we going to share stories in a way that makes something look bad? Or are we going to share stories in a way that invites people into our joy? God, I pray that we would be bold enough and wise enough to do the latter of those two things, God. And if we can't even see the light or see the joy, then God, we just pray for your grace in that. We're all going to find ourselves in that moment where we need your grace because we don't understand what you're up to. God, also, if things are going great this year, and this has been a banner year, and things are finally coming together for us, God, let us not think that it's because of something great that we did, because we finally got our ducks in a row, or because we finally got that promotion, or did that thing, or paid off that thing. But maybe, God, it's because you are just a good God that has been giving us these gifts, that has had in line for us since creation, for us to be doing what we're doing right now, God. And if that's so, we just praise you. We know that every good and perfect gift comes from you. We know that every joy that we experience, we can turn back to you, God. Ice cream tastes good because you chose to give us taste buds, God. You didn't have to do that. God, the things in our life, the relationships that are blessings to us are there because you gave us those people to sharpen us and to bless us. So God, let us turn everything we can back to you in joy. Don't let us be so overconfident and self-righteous that we think we could have done it without you, God. You're a God that loves us. And we just live in that love. Let us mark this moment with that love and nothing else. God, we love you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen.